Okay, I think we're finally ready. This is the Launchpad ride, and tonight Darren is going to be leading it. He's the guy with the yellow beacon. What you're seeing now is what we call the starting pen. Riders that sign up for the ride are held in the starting pen until the countdown timer, you can see on the top right, currently showing 3:07.6, until that counts down to 0, and then the riders will set off as a group. Darren will hold the pace, and we'll see how smoothly we manage to get off from the start. Now this is a beginner's ride, or it's for riders who are recovering, who basically want either a recovery ride, maybe they're recovering from injury, and it covers the first half or the first 3/4 at about the 1 watt/kilogram pace, which is a steady pace most new riders should be able to manage without too much trouble. However, because it is a beginner's ride, we also have what we call sweepers, and their job is to help anybody struggling at the back of the group, and they'll basically ask you to message in the software. You can see the message tab here, and basically if you call out for help, then here we go, Darren's just announcing it now. If you need help, shout out and someone will come and rescue you. What that means is they'll drop back from the main group and they'll offer you a wheel, because drafting actually works within Zwift. So they'll offer you a wheel and you'll be able to get back to the group. It's a fairly dynamic process, and hopefully you will see it happening tonight. Normally on these rides we have what we call a red beacon as well as the yellow beacon. I don't see it at the moment, but the red beacon, he's the sweeper. He's the one that will basically drop back, and stronger riders will usually help him out if it gets a little bit too much. But as I say, this is an easy ride. We have a lot of regulars come along on it. I'll just give a shout out to one of my friends. Good evening, Julia, from Cardiff Tri. And a lot of riders start with this ride and then they go on to take part in more meaty 3R rides. More about that later as we get nearer the time. But basically, if you want to follow the messages on screen and from the riders, and I'll talk you through it as we get off, because now it's time to start cycling. So you start on your trainer, up in the pace, and then when we set off, we're trying to go at 1.0 kilogram. So if you look at my name highlighted in blue, I'm currently at 0.9. 1.2. So I'll try and hold with the group at about 1.0 watt/kilogram. Now it's slightly different for different weight riders, but 1.0 should be easy enough for everybody on the ride to be able to stay round and about that pace. You know, either slightly over, slightly under, but because of the difference in weight you will see the group spreading out, but hopefully Darren will keep it all together and we won't have any flyers going off the front. Now here's the yellow beacon riding up alongside me, taking a drink, and you can see slightly below me we've got the red beacon highlighted by the red sort of shield. That's Joel. He's actually in America at the moment, so it's probably early morning for him. Good evening, Joel. And Joel is a trooper. He actually helps out in quite a lot of the 3R rides. He himself is coming back from injury, and we miss him. He's a good one to have in and around on the rides. He certainly helps out on my rides when I lead this event and the 2-2. Now the thing is with talking, I've got to try and concentrate as well and make sure that I do stay with the group. So if I do drop back, you may see me just upping my pace slightly to catch back up with the leader. And you can see that Darren, he actually announces where he is on the ride, so that riders that have dropped off to the back, or riders that are too far in front, can adjust the pace so that they get back to the group. It's mainly done so that the riders behind know where he is and know, you know, look, I've got to make more of an effort to try and catch the leader. But you'll always have the ones going off the front, we call them flyers, but the ride usually settles down. After about 5 minutes, the ride usually settles down and we all come together. What should be noted about this ride is that Darren will not chase, neither will I when I'm leading, but you don't chase the riders like you can see from the group riders nearby on the right hand side, that the riders up front are as much as 6, 7, 8 seconds in front. Well, we won't chase them. You know, the leader will continue to ride at the set pace. Occasionally he'll go over, occasionally under, but he will basically ride at the set pace and not chase those that are going off up the front. And that's the key to this ride, because what you have to remember is if he goes off chasing riders who have gone up the road, then the watt kilogram, the 1 watt kilogram which the ride is based upon, would simply not hold. And what's the point of having a beginner's ride, advertising it as a set pace and then failing to keep to that pace? And that's the biggest criticism for a lot of the rides that are scheduled on Zwift. A lot of the group rides, they advertise them as 2 watt kilogram, 3 watt kilogram, and you get the leaders who sort of like feel they have to stay with the riders that are going off up the front, and before you know it, a 2 watt kilogram becomes a 2.5, 2.6. I'd like to think, and I know certainly from my experience, from Darren's experience, and other leaders like Joel and Jonathan in 3R, that our rides, we take great pride in staying at the advertised pace. And I actually began riding for 3R with a ride called the True 2, which is coming up after this ride later on in the evening, and I started that ride and I became well known as True 2 Bullcock, because I almost always came in bang on 2.0 watt kilogram, which is what the ride is advertised as. And that can be quite tricky to do. To do that week in and week out takes a fair amount of skill, because obviously sometimes you're going over the set pace, sometimes you're going under, And certainly if you're on the True 2 and you're not sprinting, and again more about this later, then it's very difficult to work out just where you are pace wise, because you're always shifting and changing. But again, you'll see more of that later. And you can see here now I'm not even up at the front, and I'm riding at 0.8 watt kilogram at the moment, but occasionally you'll see me rising as much as 1.4, 1.5, and that's just fluctuations in the ride. So the idea is to come along and see how you cope. Look, the whole group's together now. You've got me, you've got yellow, you've got red, and this is the best place to be. If you're coming on this ride, try and stay with your leader, like I'm on his wheel now. Try and stay with your leader, because he will stick at the correct pace, and even if it shows, even if it shows him raising that pace slightly, it's usually because of a rise in the road, or sometimes when going downhill you speed up to try and keep your watt kilogram high. But we call it blobbing. You can see Darren saying that on screen. We call it blobbing, where all the group stays together around the leader, and it's pretty impressive to see when it works well. And I know Darren's a very, very good leader, who's quite proud of the fact that his rides are not only well attended, but he gets the same riders coming back week after week. And you can see here now we're going uphill. Look at the top right of the screen, and you'll see it says 5%. So this is a slight rise, and what happens is your watt kilogram, like mine's gone up now to 1.6, 1.7. You basically asked to try and keep it at 1.5 when going uphill. So I'm just easing off slightly, because if you really put in the same effort on the hills, then you're going to overshoot the target watt kilogram. And there you go, I've overtaken the leader because he's slowed down. He's realised that, yeah, okay, we're still going uphill, I don't want to go too far over my pace, so I'm going to slow down and back off a little. And that's the key to this ride. And generally what you will find as well is that when you take into account that little hill, you can see it's split the group up fairly noticeably. But what should happen now is, now that we're back on the level, then you should notice that riders will, like myself, I'm only just in front of Darren, I'll drop back, and he's actually messaging that he wants people to regroup and he wants them to drop back to 1.0 kilogram. Watt kilogram. And there we go. So the group will regroup here. The ones that have gone up the front should slow down and rejoin us, and then we'll be on his way again. Now this is a nice short event. It's only 30 minutes in duration, so it's a nice short event, but it's ideal for new riders or riders that want to know, how group rides, the dynamics of it, how they work. And drafting actually does work in the in the game. For example, you can see now it says to me close the gap. I'm 2 meters behind the rider in front. If at 3 meters, if I actually close the gap, there we go, closing the gap slightly, speeding up, I'll close the gap, and once I close the gap I'm back in the draft and I can ease off because I don't have to work as hard. Whereas if I allow the gap to open like that, you can see I'm pedaling a lot harder than the group because I'm not in the draft. So now I'm pedaling at 2.0 watt kilogram because I've let the group go. I'm no longer in the draft and I have to work twice as hard as the group because I'm not in the draft. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to close up, and then you'll see that I'm able to stay in the group at a much reduced pace. I'm currently doing 2, but once I get back to the group, and there's my friend Joe, he's going to hopefully join me at the back of the group, or maybe he's waiting to see who else has dropped back. There we go. And now I'm back in the group, look, I can immediately ease off the pedals and just keep it going. Although the group does seem to be going a little bit faster than what I expected. But there we go, we're back with them. Now the other thing to mention is we have what we call power-ups in the game. And the power-ups, they'll show up on screen. In this case they're on the left hand side, second from top. And my power-up at the moment is the van, which is the draft power-up. So what I do is I close the gap to the group, so I'm going to close the gap and then I'm going to hit my keyboard spacebar. There we go. And now hopefully okay, my draft doesn't seem to want to work. Let's see if it works on the companion app. There you go. So there you can see my drafting boost counting down. And I think for this one, for the drafting, you get about 15 seconds. So it increases your drafting effect. Now these become very, very important when you go on to be racing in Zwift. You're always looking for them to help you, particularly when sprinting. Okay, and I'm closing in on the leader again now, so I can probably ease off a little. Haha! And there we go. As you do more mileage on Zwift, you get awarded prizes. So the more you ride, the more kit Zwift will give you. It's called unlocks, and the more kilometers you go, the more kit you get, but also the higher the level. And you need to reach certain levels to unlock different bits of kit. I'm currently at level 42, which you can see just under my 32 km/h speed. at the moment, and that's taken me a good few years to get there. So level 42 means that you're quite an old Swifter. Not old as in age, but old as in you've been on the platform for quite a while. Having said that, I did need to take a break when I had a very serious accident, cycling accident, where I broke my hip and damaged my knee, and I spent almost a year away from Zwift. And that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, because I love my cycling, and I was quite a Zwift aficionado. I even held the Zwift distance record way back in 2016, which was something daft like 1600 kilometers in 3.5 days. So now the other way to see whereabouts you are in the group is to look up to the top left hand side, and you can see the mini map in the corner. And what that does is that shows you your own position. You're the shield in red within the yellow group. So it shows where you are. Sorry, not the shield in red, you're the arrow in red. So you can see the yellow shield, you can see the arrow in red, and you can see the red shield. It shows the positions of the group on the road, and then just in front of all the yellow you can see what looks like a D, a red D lying on its side. That's what we call the gate. And the purpose of the gate is it's normally run between 5 and 10 seconds ahead of the group. And what happens is if a rider rides through the gate, he'll get a warning to return to the group. And as I understand it, I'm not exactly sure, but I think I'm about on the ballpark, you get 3 warnings or 60 seconds to return to the group. If you don't return to the group, you get kicked from the ride. And I think it's a brilliant idea, particularly if Zwift turn it on so that you get the warning and you get kicked. Because a lot of rides in the early days were spoiled by what we call the flyers. People going off the front, forming their own groups, riders would go across and bridge to them, and it spoiled the whole dynamic of the group, because you know, the idea of the ride is that everybody rides together, not that we split up into separate groups. Okay, and we're going to be going up the hill again very shortly. If you look in the top right hand corner, you can see it's 0% at the moment, but you can also see the profile is going to rise up. So you get a good idea of what's coming up. And we know that this hill is 5%, but this is the place where if you fall in behind, here we go, we're on the hill now, and this is the place where if you fall in behind on this ride, you make an effort. You make an effort because it's a good opportunity to catch the group as we're slowing down and going up the hill. And Darren's 3 meters behind me, so I'm slowing down to stay with him, and the whole group will stay together hopefully on the rise, so that by the time we finish the climb, the riders at the back have managed to catch us. You also notice there that the beacon, the red gate, actually appeared to grow closer to us, and I think that's because Darren probably decided to turn it off. so that riders who went up the hill first wouldn't get shot out or a warning. Okay, now he's announcing, okay, this is the part of the ride now, we've done 2/3 of the ride, and Darren has now decided, okay, let's up the pace to 1.5. So, and it might not sound much, but that extra 0.5% of a watt kilogram, should I say, is actually quite significant. You're going to have to make a fair bit more effort to keep within the 1.5 guidelines. So this ride is an excellent introduction to riding on Zwift. For that very reason, you start out at 1.0, see how you cope with it. By the end of the ride, you're asked to go up to 1.5, and it'll give you an idea of whether you're ready for the next ride in the series, which is the True 2, the 2.0 watt kilogram ride. And many riders will come on this ride, get used to riding, learn the dynamics, then go on to ride the True 2, where the whole ride is completely different to this one. This is a relaxed group ride. Everybody tries to stay together. We stay at a basic pace and then we up it at the end. But there's nothing more to this ride. There's no sprints, there's no mini races. Now you move on to the True 2, which is coming up later this evening, and I am going to be streaming that. Darren's leading it. So yeah, you go to the True 2 and you're riding around at 2 watt kilogram, but every single lap you have a sprint. And sometimes, I myself like this option, sometimes the leader will put a 3 or 4 minute mini race on the end. So what basically happens is you ride at a nice pace of 2.0, but then you have the sprints. And the sprints are amazing because people, will shoot off the group after drafting, head to the sprint banner, and then immediately pull up to rejoin the group. It works very, very well, but not only does it teach you sprinting, because you have to learn the dynamics of drafting, when to actually start your sprint, when to give it full gas, when to start winding up, and that's all comes with experience, and you'll learn that in the True 2. We have some excellent riders now in the racing scene who have come through True 2, learned how to sprint, and now they've taken that into their racing. And the idea of the Launchpad and the True 2 now for 3R, what we're trying to achieve is we're trying to bring new riders in, because we actually need more riders to take part in the D races, which are the lowest echelon of races on Zwift. And if you can comfortably ride around at 2.0 watt kilogram, but you've got a good sprint on you, or you've learned how to close a gap because you can sprint, then you should be able to hang together in a D level race. Okay, you're not going to win it, not unless your tactics are really spot on, but you're going to learn in the True 2 a lot of the dynamics that you can take once again into furthering your career, your racing career on Zwift. And that's what I did when I came to Zwift. I was really only interested in the long distance stuff, riding 24-48 hours, that kind of rubbish, which takes a completely different mindset. Anybody that can sit on a turbo for 24 hours has got to have a screw loose somewhere, and I have numerous loose. But then I decided, you know, I'd really like to give racing a try. So I took my fitness, which I gathered from all the endurance riding I was doing, and yeah, I became a fairly decent B-level racer. So one tier from the top. I was never going to win a race, but I was certainly capable of hanging, you know, with the riders and finishing, you know, with the main group. So, and that all came about from starting the True 2. And that's where we're hoping to lead these rides. The Launchpad introduces people to Zwift, and then the True 2 prepares them. But keep an eye on my channel. I do hope you'll enjoy this video and come back, because I'm going to be announcing a few changes that we're planning on Zwift at the lower end for the lower category riders, the D and the C riders, and we've got quite a bit planned. We're doing a recruitment drive for racers, and we may well be in a position to be able to offer some form of training and advice on these rides. So we could have like a question and answer session, because I'm sure there'd be lots of questions, you know, that many new Zwifters, and here we are, I've lost the group now, so I'm going to speed up to catch them. But yeah, the question and answer sessions could work. I'm really hoping that Zwift will roll out voice chat in the near future. I don't know whether it's going to happen, but if not, we'll look at another way of maybe doing it. Whew, this is hard work. Once you lose the draft, it's very easy to lose the group, and it takes quite a large effort to get back. As you can see, and if you look at the top and middle of the screen, you can see we've only got a minute left. So as Darren says, you need the draft to stay with the group, because the group can be moving at a fair old pace because of the drafting effect. I think I'm just going to get back to them before the ride finishes, but I'm having to put in a fair old effort to do so. There we go, we got back. Now here's another tip for you. If you have been dropped by the group and you're getting back, do what I've done there. Go through the group. Don't just ride to the back and think, oh, I've done it, and then ease off. Keep your pace going until you get up to the front of the group, or certainly in front of the leader, and then regulate your pace to the leader, like I'm doing here. So the leader's 8 meters behind me, and there we go. So we've finished the ride, 14.1 kilometers in 30 minutes, with my average watt 83. So we'll find out in a minute how that compares to the stated wattage required for the ride, the watt kilogram. Okay, that's it from me for this ride. I'm going to sign off because I'm going to go and get myself ready for the True 2, which is happening in about 10 minutes. So thanks for watching, and if you can, watch the True 2 ride on the same channel. Okay. Oh, one last thing, if you're looking for the YouTube channel, if you're not watching this on YouTube and you're looking for the YouTube channel, it's called Derek Brucock. Okay, bye for now.